everybody has issues as far as what they need to do, whether it's food, whether it's gambling, whether it's alcohol, whatever it is, everybody has issues. One of mine, I'm not going to mention too many, but one I will mention is sleep. My doctor was saying, and friends of mine were saying, you don't sleep enough. And my issue was, well, I do a lot of things. And before I go to sleep, because I do music as well, I always have to make sure I do some musical things. And that's just part of what I've been doing since I was a teenager. And it brings me joy. So it's kind of like a stress reliever in itself. And it's also work related. All right, so do you all have issues with sleep, or do you have certain issues that you deal with? One of mine is sleep. Maybe I'll tell you another, but I don't know,
Okay.
Yes. No, I didn't mean to jump in. I was just going to say that I think that it may be more myth than factual, like
sleep?
As far as sleep is concerned. And I say that because, like, there's some days where I don't feel like I get to sleep because my mind is occupied with things that are happening. And honestly, I'm being productive, right? Like, I'm letting those thoughts come. And then the next day, I'm so excited about what I thought about, I'm fine. So for me, sometimes I think that it's this myth that you have to have these 8 hours of sleep or you're not going to be going to function the way that you should. And like you just said, your body will tell you when it's time to just take a break. I mean, we need to be conscious that we don't run ourselves down. But there are days where I get up at 1 o'clock and I start writing or start doing something 1 o'clock in the morning, and I don't fight it anymore. I don't say to myself, I should be asleep. I say, oh, thank you, God, for bringing that to me. Okay. And then we go. And I'm fine. Like, I really do. I feel the next day, which, depending on how long I'm up, I feel pretty good about what just happened. So I kind of go away from feeling that it's this factual thing that you have to have 8 hours of sleep or you're really not going to be as shiny as you should.
Doc, I was going to get you in here because he's a physical therapist. So I said, I'm not going to answer that. I know you get up early too. So,
I do.
And I go to sleep late. So, when you're getting up, I'm going to sleep. But
I would agree
please.
that everyone doesn't need 8 hours of sleep. Different people need different amounts, but sleep deprivation can impact concentration and your health. Your body needs that time to recover. I actually think that's one of the things I do well. I try to go to bed at 9:30 every night.
9:30.
And I don't use an alarm clock, and so that when I wake up, it's because I'm rested.
What time do you get up?
I get up at 5:30 or 6. Yeah.
Well, that's a good amount.
Yeah.
Okay.
But also, I do agree you have to listen to your body. I'm more worried about our kids and them not getting enough sleep, and I do think our teenagers and our kids need more sleep. So it's important to kind of send that message for the kids as well. Once we're adults, we adjust and figure it out.
Well, I think that's a whole nother show, because children have things that we didn't have. As far as a cell phone, my son, I had him put his cell phone in my room because I'd go upstairs. He's supposed to be asleep. He's under the cover. Like, you can't see the light on the cell phone. I don't know what, he's playing a game. He's not talking to anybody. He's playing a game. He's playing a video game. He's a video junkie. So I had to take his cell phone so he would sleep, My daughter didn't need to do that. But, I think the thing with sleep, as I hear both of you kind of saying, is that it might be different for different people. Now, about family history and health, I know my father passed of colon cancer, and I think three of us had fathers that passed of colon cancer. As I said, the reason I started this was because I was diagnosed in 2009 with prostate cancer, and I cured it holistically. So in order to not have that genetic trait, what did you do in order to change your genetic thing? Because I want to say this real quick. There was a quote that guy that was head of the Diabetes Association in New York. He said, genetics loads the gun, but your family history, hold on, let me get this quote right. He said, genetics loads the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger. Right, so, and I was sitting in the audience, and I was part of the ones that was giving the talk, but I wasn't on the panel. And I talked to him later. His name was Kevin Shippey. And what happened, I was like, man, that's like great, man. Like you can actually change your genetic code somewhat. Of course, you can't change it all. Your mother and your father are who they are. So how do you work with your genetic code and you know, your family history? My father with colon cancer and the stuff he ate, that we ate, I don't eat anymore. You know, I'm a vegan, you know. So how do you change your anyone?
If I could just jump in quickly, I really want to talk about something we brought up before.
Oh, go ahead. We can talk about that and we'll get to it.
It maybe correlates here.
Okay.
Like, for example, on my father's side, they're prone to seasonal allergies. And you know, my father always suffered with postnasal drip. And when I turned 18, I started getting those seasonal allergies. And so, but over the years of doing supplements, various type of B vitamins, at the time, during that time, echinacea, juicing. I mean, if I get an itchy eyes, it's like maybe every couple of years. And, you know, I mean, virtually, sneezing, virtually the improvement, if I could put a number to it, has to be over 95% improvement. Wow. Absolutely. So you can turn off those, I think, genetic predispositions. That's clear. My mother, on that side, suffers with arthritis, degenerative, you know, osteoarthritis. And I had started experiencing pains in the joint. I'd injured my knee back in eighth grade, and it developed arthritis to the point my knee was lateral deviation. And with alkaline water, I got to admit, alkaline water, my knee, literally the knee has straightened up. The pain in my joints have stopped, along with, again, different types of juicing, celery and vegetable juicing, as well as other supplementations. Definitely, I've seen a difference. So, you know, I'm a definite supporter of, no matter what the, you know, your genome states, you don't have to turn it on.
Well, I'm going to do a little plug here. Our next guest is the person you turned me on to from Heavenly Waters, Delvis. He's going to be our guest next month. So I just want to, you know, talk about.
And even the point with the animals, I have. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I even had, you know, that particular one to make a blend for the animals, and I see a difference with them too.
Him, you were talking about
Yeah,
that, but you
yeah,
know,
but
we'll
we
talk.
can talk
We'll
about
talk
that
about
at
it.
some other point.
And so, what have you to change your genetic path?
For me, the eating part hasn't changed too much. I kind of stick to a traditional diet of what my parents ate.
Okay.
I enjoy and hold on to. But the one thing that I do, which I think is a little different than my parents, is I keep a regular physical with my doctor. I am conscious about what he shares with me. I think for my parents, they waited till they were a little bit older to start to see their physicians. Once things started to happen, is when they started to seek a physician, and they were good about that. But I don't want to wait for something to happen. I kind of want to be one step ahead of that. So I think that's where there's a difference between my family practice and myself right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty blessed to have a pretty positive family history. I don't have a history of cancer in my family. My grandmother lived to 98. Her sister lived to 98. But I do know that in her last year, she was pretty frail and had limited mobility. And she had broken her hip and had a hip replacement. And when I went to school to become a physical therapist, I ended up specializing in geriatrics and got more into geriatric research. I teach clinical geriatrics. And so I'm much more aware of what people are capable of. My mom started Tai Chi and exercise at 50. I plan to exercise till I'm 98. You can still build strength and keep your body strong. So if I'm going to live till I'm 98, I want to be able to go for hikes and be active until 98. And I think that's a big difference from how my grandmother lived her life in her later years.
You bring up a great point. My grandmother lived to 100, and her mother, my grandmother lived to 100, and my great grandmother lived to 104. So that, you know, the guys, that's another story. You know, they didn't live as long, but 60s, my father passed at 65. But, you know, as far as health, and there's women maybe that are about 50, right? And so I know all of you are over 21. So, you know, if there's someone that's around 50 and they're saying, I'm too old, what can I do now? Like, how can you encourage someone that's watching this to say that it's never too late? What would you say to a woman that's watching this that you can encourage them to start on a healthy way?
Oh my